Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my review of the Borealis Cascais V2. Now the fact that this one is the V2 strongly suggests that there was a V1 at some stage. I didn't ever review that one, but I will show you some kind of side-by-side photos so you can see what they're doing with this particular model line. I must have looked at 6 or 7 Borealis on the channel over the last 3 years. In some way they're quite a reassuring brand for me to review. You pretty much know what you're getting with a Borealis before you get it. And what you're getting is a well-made, well-spec'd, well-thought-out watch that wears well, looks good, is reasonably priced, and you pay for in 2 equal installments of 50%. They do have their slightly unusual pre-order system going. I've kind of complained about it in the past, but nobody seems to care. Clearly it works well for the company. They mitigate much of the risk of producing a run of watches, and I think it works well for fans of the brand. Maybe it takes the sting out of a purchase. You can try and convince yourself you're not spending quite as much money on watches as you actually are. This one's in pre-order at the moment. I'll leave a link in the description of the video. Couple of things before we go on. This watch is a prototype. It has been around the world a couple of times. I'm in Sydney, Australia. I'm always the last person to get my hands on these watches. This one arrived with a slightly broken clasp. It's the first Borealis that I've had with any kind of issue, and I'm sure production units will not have any such issues. Also, this one is on its way back to Portugal, but they'll be sending me a production unit in due course in the colour of my choice, and I've asked for the orange one that features on the thumbnail. I think it looks great. Let's flip the camera and have a look at this one. A familiar looking brown Borealis PU leather travel pouchy. I'm sure you've seen these before if you've watched any of my videos or indeed any of the other many Borealis reviews that are available on YouTube. I'm going to go through the dimensions and specifications of this one fairly quickly today. If you're going to pick up this Cascais V2 rather than any of the plethora of other 300 meter stainless steel divers hovering around the $400 mark, you're going to do so because of the dial. The dial on this is really very, very pretty indeed, and I'm going to get plenty of macro footage for you. I used cobblestones as the background of the thumbnail today. Borealis are a Portuguese company, and they modelled the dial on this Cascais on the traditional cobblestone pavements found around various parts of Portugal. The more you look at this dial, the more detail you see in this dial. It really is very nice indeed. And like I said, it has all the specs that you would want. 41mm in diameter, 12.5mm thick. This one uses a Miyota 9000 series, so you always tend to get the benefits of that if a company uses it properly. They tend to be under 13mm thick. 47mm lug to lug with drilled lugs. That's almost kind of Seiko levels of compactness there. 20mm lug width. Bit of a taper on this semi-oyster, semi-president style bracelet. Down to 18, back up to 20 at the broken clasp. It's the fold over that has ceased to fold over here. Sized up for me, this one weighs in bang on the sports watch stainless steel sweet spot at 150 grams. So 316L stainless steel case, crown, bezel and bracelet. I do like the bezel insert here. It is a hardened brushed stainless steel and it is pumped full of lume. BGW9 Super Luminova, they're top grade, lots and lots of it on the hands and on the indices and on that bezel insert. BGW9 when done half-heartedly looks half-hearted, when done well it looks great, and I must say the lume on this Cascais V2 looks really pretty good. Case finishing is simple, mostly brush. We've got a vertical brush on the mid case, little bit of high polish on the chamfered edge there, transitioning over to the brush surface on the top of the lugs. Borealis B on a high polished crown and a nice finely machined bezel. Now that bezel is 120 click unidirectional and the action on it is fantastic. Really very, very nice. It sounds good as well, and there's no backplay at all. Double domed sapphire crystal as you would expect covering the dial. The bracelet wears very comfortably, the whole watch wears very comfortably. Nice fine brushing on all three of those links. Now it has the protruding, so the kind of male end link, but because it's got such a short 46mm lug to lug, it wears nicely. Quite a noticed pronounced downturn on those drilled lugs as well. I'll show you on wrist later. And proper screw links here. Small links, small screws therefore. You best invest in a 1mm screwdriver if you're going to pick yourself up one of these, but I had no difficulty sizing the bracelet. And it's a bit of a shame the clasp on this prototype came in broken because it is my preferred type of clasp. I do like these ones, chamfered edge, kind of no nonsense. 6 levels of micro adjust. It would have a fold over there, double security pusher, proper mill clasp. Really, that's the kind of optimum style of clasp in my humble opinion anyway. Plenty of adjustment, nothing too fancy, nothing that's gonna let you down long term. Assuming you get one that works in the first place, that is. Borealis B, they could do something more interesting there, but it's inoffensive, I suppose. As is the picture of the mermaid on the back of the screw down stainless steel case back. So screw down crown, screw down case back, 300 meters of water resistance and half a spec sheet. Miyota 9015 in this one, they offer date and no date variants. You will get a ghost date position if you opt for one of the no date models. It doesn't really bother me at all. It's a nice touch when companies do spec the 9039, but it's not a deal breaker. And this watch is reassuringly quiet. You don't get a lot of that kind of rotor wobble and rotor noise that you quite often get from a 9015, showing that the case has been well manufactured. And on wrist, I reckon this one would make for a really comfortable all-day wear, short lug to lug. Now, there were enough spare links, I reckon, for guys with up to 8 inches. However, I reckon this one would be suitable for guys with smaller than average wrists because of that short lug to lug. 41 kind of looks and feels like a 40. You barely notice that extra millimetre. And that is the proper overhead shot. They're actually offering this one with a couple of different styles of hands. You can get the cathedral hands that this one has. There are also pencil hands available. I like the cathedral ones. I think they add a bit of extra elegance to the watch, some extra curves, and I think that hour hand really does match those circular indices nicely. Now outside, as I move the watch around, you begin to notice a bit more of that intricate cobblestone patterning on the dial. Don't worry, I will be coming back to it shortly. On wrist, short lug to lug combined with those downturn, almost kind of vintage style lugs means that it's very comfortable. Dead easy to swap out if you are a bit of a strap fetishist and you're putting this one on a vintage leather or something like that for the weekends as well. No problem at all. Right, on to the dial then, because like I said, really that's where the interest lies. There are plenty of watches that have the same specifications for the same money that this one does, but not many that have a dial that looks like this. It initially looks like a kind of checkerboard pattern, kind of parquetry squares running on the diagonal, but once you look even closer you can see that those squares are patterned themselves, and there's a kind of dot pattern on the base of the dial itself. It really is quite a spectacular effect when you look at it up close. So the Borealis logo there stands proud of that checkerboard pattern. You've got the double index at 12 in baton style. Similarly, batons at the 3 and the 9, a half baton down there at 6. I always like it when a date complication is well integrated at the 6, and that's something that Borealis do well on a lot of their watches. Cascais, 30 atmospheres. They haven't over-branded or over-detailed the dial at all there, I don't think. Circular indices everywhere else for the hour markers, and there are even more concentric ring patterns on that outer edge where the minute track lies. The more you look at this dial, the more you see. Beyond the minute track, there's another set of markers. Again, this is the kind of white dial with blue. They don't add to the functionality of the watch, but they do form a kind of visual bridge, if you will, between the bezel and that minute track. There's this white with blue, there's a grey dial version, there's a black with gilt, which I also think would look great, and the orange one that I've asked them to put one aside for me. That is going to look pretty amazing, I reckon. Moans and niggles. Well, any brand that doesn't give a 2-year warranty for a $400 watch is going to get called out for it. So Borealis, you're getting called out for it. Only a 12-month warranty with this one. Also, that 50-50 deposit thing, I think some people are going to enjoy that. Some people are going to wish that they get the instant gratification of being able to pick up the watch. But hey, like I said, Borealis have been doing it for years. They've been making watches since 2013, and that's the system they've always used. So clearly it works for them and for the people who purchase their watches. But I do like what they've done with this Cascais V2, that's the Cascais V1 on the right. Similar but different, they redesigned it from scratch, and I think they brought a lot more of the company's personality into the watch. I guess as brands mature and develop, they can afford to do that. Borealis seem to do these kind of homage-y watches, the Adraga, the Seastorm and so on, that bear more than a passing resemblance to a Rolex and a Blancpain respectively. But like the Olisipo and this Cascais, they also seem to do their own style of watches. And I think that works well, having the kind of two-pronged approach, putting your own twist on a classic design whilst also persevering with your own style as well. So there you have it, another solid offering from Borealis in the form of this Cascais V2. I quite like the way they seem to be going as a company, homages with a twist, their Adraga line and the Seastorm and so on, taking inspiration from classic watches if you will. Plus they seem to be refining their own design language and just pushing the boundaries of some of their older models with these reissues. The dial on this one is a cracker. Thanks for watching, I will see you soon.